There's something I hear from a lot of folks over 75, something they don't always say out loud, but it's there. It's that little flicker of doubt when they get behind the wheel. Maybe you felt it too, that moment where you wonder, am I still as sharp as I used to be? Is driving still safe for me? Well, let me tell you something important. Driving after 75 doesn't have to be scary. In fact, with the right habits and a little confidence, it can still be something you enjoy, something that keeps you independent and connected to the people and places you love. Now, I'm not here to lecture you or tell you what to do. Instead, I want to share 6 practical tips that can help you stay safe, confident, and in control on the road. These aren't complicated rules, just simple, common sense strategies that make a big difference. So, let's start with the first one. And this one might surprise you. It's not about your reflexes or your eyesight, though those are important too. It's about knowing your car. You see, cars today are different than the ones we grew up with. They've got backup cameras, lane assist warnings, even automatic braking in some models. If you're driving an older car, maybe it's time to consider an upgrade. Not because you have to, but because these features can give you an extra layer of safety. Think of them like training wheels, but for experienced drivers. They're there to help, not to take over. Now, if a new car isn't in the cards, that's okay. The next best thing is to really get familiar with the car you have. Spend some time sitting in the driver's seat while parked. Adjust your mirrors, test the blind spots, and make sure you know where all the controls are. The more comfortable you are with your car, the less mental energy you'll waste fumbling for things while driving. And that brings me to the second tip. Timing matters. Have you ever noticed that some days, driving just feels easier than others? Maybe it's the weather, or maybe it's just how you're feeling. Well, here's a little secret. You don't have to drive when conditions aren't ideal. If you're tired, if it's raining hard, or if traffic is heavier than usual, give yourself permission to wait. Plan your outings for daylight hours. Avoid rush hour if you can. And don't push yourself to drive when you're not at your best. I'll tell you a quick story about my friend Margaret. She's 78 and still drives everywhere, but she's smart about it. She does her grocery runs mid-morning when the stores are quiet. And if she has a doctor's appointment across town, she schedules it for a time when she knows the roads will be calm. It's a small adjustment, but it makes all the difference in how confident she feels behind the wheel. Now, let's talk about the third tip. And this one is all about staying sharp. Just like we exercise our bodies to keep them strong, we've got to exercise our minds to keep our driving skills sharp. That doesn't mean memorizing the rule book. It just means staying aware. Try this. Next time you're a passenger in a car, pay attention to the road as if you were driving. Notice the signs, the signals, the way other cars move. It's like a little mental refresher course. And if you really want to go the extra mile, some communities offer driving courses for seniors. Not because you need fixing, but because it's a great way to brush up on the latest road rules and maybe even learn a new trick or two. Now, we've covered 3 big tips so far. Knowing your car, choosing the right time to drive, and keeping your skills sharp. But there's more to it. And in the next part, we'll dive into some equally important strategies, like how to handle intersections, which, let's be honest, can be tricky at any age. And the one thing you should always do before starting the engine. So stay with me, because driving after 75 isn't about giving up freedom. It's about embracing it safely and confidently. You know, one of the things I love about talking with folks over 75 is how much wisdom they bring to the table. You've spent decades behind the wheel. You know the roads, you know your habits, and you've probably seen just about everything out there. But even with all that experience, there are a few spots that can still make even the most confident driver pause. Take intersections, for example. They're like the great equalizers of the road. No matter how long you've been driving, they demand your full attention. And that's where our 4th tip comes in. Master the art of the intersection. Now, I'm not talking about anything fancy. It's really about 3 simple things. Looking twice, taking your time, and trusting your instincts. When you approach a stop sign or a traffic light, don't just glance, really look. Check for cars coming from every direction, including those turning across your path. And if you're at a busy intersection where the sun's glaring or the angles feel awkward, give yourself an extra second. There's no prize for rushing, but there's a whole lot of peace in knowing you made the right call. Here's a little trick my neighbor Frank taught me. He counts to 3 after the light turns green before he moves forward. Why? Because it gives him time to make sure no one's running the red light from the other direction. It's a tiny habit, but it saved him more than once. Now, let's move on to tip number 5, and this one's a game changer. Make friends with your mirrors. I know. You've been using mirrors your whole driving life. But here's the thing. As we get older, our necks might not turn as easily as they used to, and that's where those side and rearview mirrors become your best allies. Take a minute to adjust them so you've got the widest possible view without straining. And if your car has blind spot mirrors, those little round ones you can stick on, give them a try. They're like having an extra set of eyes. And while we're on the subject of seeing clearly, let's talk about the 6th tip. Lighten your load. No, I don't mean cleaning out your trunk, though that's not a bad idea. I mean giving yourself the easiest possible driving experience. If night driving isn't as comfortable as it used to be, stick to daylight hours. If merging onto the highway feels stressful, plan a route that keeps you on quieter roads. And if you're heading somewhere new, take a peek at the map beforehand, or better yet, use a GPS with voice directions so you're not squinting at street signs while driving. The key here is to remove friction. Driving shouldn't feel like a test. It should feel like second nature. And sometimes, that means making small adjustments to match how you feel right now, not how you drove 20 years ago. Now, we've covered some big ground here. Navigating intersections, using your mirrors like a pro, and simplifying your drives. But there's one last piece of the puzzle, and it's the most important of all. In the next part, we'll talk about the single best thing you can do to stay safe on the road, something that has nothing to do with your car or the traffic, and everything to do with you. So stay tuned, because the best is yet to come. You know, there's a question I get asked all the time, and it's not about mirrors or intersections, or even the best time of day to drive. The question I hear most often is this: how do I know when it's time to stop driving? And my answer might surprise you. This isn't about age. It's about awareness. Which brings me to our final and most important tip. Check in with yourself, honestly and often. Now, I'm not talking about dwelling on limitations. I'm talking about something much more positive, knowing your strengths and being smart about your challenges. Maybe your night vision isn't what it used to be, but your daytime driving is still sharp as ever. Maybe highways feel overwhelming now, but you're perfectly comfortable on local roads. That's not giving up, that's driving smarter. Here's a simple way to do it. After every drive, ask yourself 2 questions. First, did I feel fully in control? And second, was I comfortable the whole time? If the answer is yes, great. If not, that's your cue to make adjustments, whether it's sticking to shorter trips, avoiding busy times, or even asking a friend or family member to ride along occasionally. And here's the thing, this isn't just about safety, though that's the most important part. It's about confidence, because when you know you're making thoughtful choices, driving stops being scary and starts being what it should be. A way to stay independent, connected, and in charge of your own life. So let's recap those 6 tips. Know your car. Take advantage of modern safety features. Time your drives. Choose conditions where you feel your best. Keep your skills sharp. Stay aware and refreshed. Master intersections. Look twice, go slow. Trust your gut. Befriend your mirrors. Adjust them to work for you. Lighten your load. Simplify your driving where you can. And above all, listen to yourself. You've spent a lifetime making good decisions. Why stop now? I'd love to hear from you. What's your best tip for staying confident on the road? Share it in the comments below. And if this video helped you, pass it along to a friend who might need it too. Remember, age isn't about limits. It's about knowing exactly how to live well on your terms. Here's to many more safe, happy miles ahead.